Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining. So today I have to get back to bidirectional charging for EVs, something I've discussed in a previous video. As a matter of fact, I'll put a link in this video so you can see my comprehensive discussion of bidirectional charging for EVs. Bidirectional charging basically means that instead of just plugging your EV into a charger at night or into a charger at a public charging station, you plug in and it's two-way charging, meaning that yes, you can charge your vehicle, but if the grid is in need of electricity and insufficient to power cars and houses and air conditioners, then it's going to suck back energy from your cars into the grid. Yes, they will reimburse you, but still, they're using your cars to make up for the insufficient grid that they now are projecting is going to happen. I mean, already there are brownouts and blackouts in certain parts of the country, such as California, and they want to greatly increase the strain on the grid by having, electric car mandates by 2030, 2035, and so forth. So in any event, an article just came out talking about bidirectional charging. Tens or hundreds of thousands of electric vehicles over the approaching decade are going to put increased strain on the grid, making it impossible for the grid to handle this. Smart two-way charging might stop a future marked by frequent blackouts and skyrocketing power costs. This by a white paper by researchers at the Charles River Associates and the German-based Hubject Consulting, arguing that bidirectional charging, which is vehicle-to-grid and grid-to-vehicle charging, is essential for EV adoption and stopping the worst-case power situations as EV charging demands surge. So this confirms what we've been saying about EVs. They're rushing towards EVs so quickly, and many states are mandating that all cars sold in their state must be all electric by, 2035 in many states, and I think was it 2030 in Oregon? In any event, we have been saying that they are not upgrading the power grid and the capacity moving forward. As a matter of fact, they're kind of making it worse. They're diminishing the capacity of the grid by taking fossil fuel power plants offline and going towards green energy such as solar and wind. And it is insufficient to handle the grid as the grid capacity challenges now, never mind when we bring many more electric vehicles on. So that's again something that confirms what we've been saying about bidirectional charging, that it may be mandated or at least necessary to be able to have all these new electric cars connecting to the grid. The other thing that no one is talking about regarding bidirectional charging is this. The lifespan, the life of the batteries in your car are not determined by the age. They're determined by how many times you charge and discharge the batteries. It's just like a cell phone. Your cell phone, when you've had it for a while, all of a sudden it doesn't hold a charge for very long. And that's because charging and discharging, every time you charge and discharge the battery, it reduces the life. And when you have a cell phone for a while and you've charged and discharged so many times, because again, those batteries have a life of, I don't know that this is the case, but say, for example, 500 charging cycles, then that's it. And with cars, with EVs, it's the same thing. The battery life is determined by how many times it's charged and discharged. So if you use your vehicle and you only charge it up once every 2 or 3 days, then it's going to last a lot longer. But if you're hooked up to bidirectional charging and hooked up to the grid and it's constantly charging and discharging, then your car battery isn't going to last very long compared to what it would if it wasn't hooked up to bidirectional charging. And as you probably know by reading online and in the newspaper and wherever you get your news, battery replacements for EVs are very, very expensive. It's almost prohibitively expensive. So that, it's almost as much as buying a new car. So not worth it. Another thing I want to discuss is hydrogen-powered electric vehicles. So these are hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, and the difference between a hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicle and a battery-powered electric vehicle is that hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles do not have batteries. So one of the great things about that for people that are concerned about all the natural resources necessary to produce batteries is that there are no batteries in the car. It also reduces the weight of the vehicle because a hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicle basically has its own electric generator on the car so that you just fill up the car with hydrogen, similar to when you fill up with gasoline, and then the car produces its own electricity. The great thing about that, again, is that there would be no range anxiety. I know I would not want an electric vehicle as my sole vehicle. Maybe I'd want an electric if I was just using it to get groceries and to commute locally. But if I wanted to take that anywhere long distance, such as another state, visiting relatives or friends or going touring, I'd never do it in an electric car. The capacity just isn't there. And the fact that with an electric car, you have to sit there for hours to recharge. And again, that's another advantage of a hydrogen fuel cell powered electric vehicle, is that you don't have to worry about batteries. It doesn't have batteries. So you don't have to worry about ever replacing the batteries. You don't have to worry about getting rare earth materials to put those batteries together. They're mined in certain parts of the world where they're they're really taking advantage of their labor. And the lithium and cobalt and so forth is very, very expensive, and they're taking that out of the ground. Hydrogen fuel cell powered electric vehicles don't use any of that. So again, that's something worth thinking about. They've also discussed the fact that if they start putting fast chargers on highways, a fast charging station on a highway would need the amount of power that a stadium, a sports stadium would need, or even a small town. And for these to be, all over the country and all along the highways, it would just be an immense amount of power that the grid just once again could not support. So one of the ways to combat that, if we must go to electric vehicles, is to have a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle. The problem is, again, that there aren't any hydrogen filling stations in the United States except for just a few locations. Where I used to live up until about 5 years ago in California, there was a hydrogen filling station right down the road, just maybe 3 or 4 miles from my house in La Cañada, California. That was the only hydrogen filling station that I knew of. But in any event, this could be a solution if we must go all electric, which I hope we don't, because again, as we've discussed, internal combustion engine vehicles are very clean nowadays and they're so efficient. But if folks want all electric vehicles, then hydrogen would be the way to go. There's also been talk that there could be internal combustion engines powered by hydrogen. I really haven't seen that much. I've heard talk about it. But in any event, hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles would be a possible solution that wouldn't put pressure on the grid, the electric grid, and allow electric cars to be running all over the place. The other thing that's good about the hydrogen fuel cell electric cars is that I don't want to be dependent on one form of energy, that being the electric grid. So many states are also starting to mandate that you can no longer have natural gas to power your heat and your water heaters and your stoves and so forth, so that I think it's in California, by 2030, new homes cannot have those natural gas powered utilities and appliances. And if you have all them already in your home, you won't be able to replace them in California after 2030, and you'll have to put electric appliances. So to be dependent on the electric grid for your home, heat, and hot water, and everything else, and have your car also be dependent on that grid is just too much. We need alternative forms. That's why natural gas is fantastic. That is a great energy for powering your home, when I say power, heat your home and use for your appliances. Then you can have electricity for other appliances in your home, and then have gasoline or a hydrogen-powered vehicle, which again would be another form of energy that you can be using to, for your cars and for your home and so forth. I don't want to be dependent on one form of energy. I think it's great that we have many different forms so that we're not dependent on one. So that's about it for now. Thanks again for joining. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and like this video. It helps. Take care. We'll see you next time.